So, hey, everybody. I am here today, joined by my friend Andrea Belluso, and we're going to have a really interesting conversation for you. And I can't wait to see what unfolds. So,
Yeah, I'm super
welcome.
excited about this too. Thank you, Julie, for inviting me on this podcast.
Yeah. So, we have this interest in something completely different with bodies, touch, sex, sexualness than most of the general public has any concept of. So
Oh,
where do
yes.
you like to begin with
Well, I
speaking
mean,
about it?
it's a very complex subject and a very exciting one. And I think that the way to start is where I would like to start is where where I am at with all of this, which is kind of different from what I understood later on in life to what where most men are with all of this. First of all, most men, and maybe it's the same for ladies, I'm not sure, but I definitely know that this is true for a lot of men, most men in the world, that even the concept of sexualness is non-existing. And it's a big question mark. They're like, what do you mean sexualness? I mean, you mean sex, right? Well, no, I mean, yeah, it's part of it, but not really, like, so it's maybe starting with what is the difference between sexualness and copulation and intimacy and all of these things that people seem to lump together and make a big mix out of it that always result in copulation full of judgment and
Mhm.
total absence, basically.
Yeah. And looking for the
Because
end goal or
exactly,
target rather than, the experience and the
yeah,
expansion of possibilities.
exactly. And I mean, even I was there, until a few years ago, because I mean, that's what we're taught. Even from when we start discovering sex, and I discovered sex at a very early age, so I didn't even know that it was what it was,
Mhm.
and it just came really from playfulness with a girl. We're just playing. We're just like, oh well, what happens if we put this and this together? Just totally innocent, not having a clue what was going to lead to it. I was 9 years old, and so was she. So it was very, very early, and it was not made out of judgment, out of trying to do something. We were not even hiding about it. It was just playing,
Mhm.
and at 9 years old as a guy, it didn't result to much, and I'm actually glad about that. And physically, the only thing that I got was a almost an electric tingling feeling on my penis, and that was it. And it was exciting, and it was fun, and it was playful, and it was playing together, and I'm so glad that that was actually my first experience. And only later on, I think it was 12 when I tried it again, but then it was already with a lot of judgment, with a lot of assumptions, with a lot of points of views of, the end result and all of these things. So it was very different, and it was kind of disappointing. And
Yeah,
I was
I bet a
kind of,
lot of people have disappointing
yeah,
sex,
yeah,
because
yeah,
first of all, it's hard to talk about it because
yes, almost
we're not
impossible.
allowed to. And one of the things that I found out after my marriage, when I was exploring greater possibilities, um, was that the people that I could talk to, it was better. And the people where I felt like I couldn't even have the conversation, there was just no opening and there was no possibility.
Yeah,
So that's a
yeah,
really key factor in, choosing a partner that's going to actually be fun and playful with you.
exactly, exactly. And I mean, like I said, my second experience was, you know, it was not tragic, but it was definitely not generative. And then I went into the wrongness of me all of a sudden, and it went another 2 years went by, I think, before I tried it another time, and then it was very different. Then it was very different again because it put me in question of like not because I was not making myself a valuable product. In fact, I was not making myself valuable at all until that point. And I was very confused about the whole thing. But the third time, so when I was 14, it was, a couple of years intervals in between the three times, the three first times. And it was actually a school friend of mine that initiated the idea. And it was this girl that invited me to her friend's place that we could borrow for the afternoon, skipping off school. And it was again this thing of playfulness, and I'd let go of the point of views of that it had to end in a certain way. So we were literally playing together. So I
Mm-hmm.
was very grateful for that. And then I was lucky enough, I guess, or good choice, to be in London in a period when it was way before AIDS came in the scene, which kind of changed all of what I'm just about to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then copulation was actually like, I was living in London. It was literally like having a cup of tea with friends, a nice
Mm.
conversation with a friend, where there was no projections, no expectations. There was this communion and playfulness about the whole thing, and openness. And it would not we would not assume that now that we have had sex is going to lead to this and this and this and the other, or it's not going to lead to this and this and the other because I have these points of views. But it was just, yeah, like I said, like having a cup of tea, totally insignificant, but beautiful and nice and full of kindness. And that went on for a few years. And I'm very, very glad that I had that in my life, because then came AIDS and all of that was just taken away. And here we are now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it just reminds me of when I used to go to Costa Rica for the 7-day events at this certain location. And they had lots and lots of horses. And every year, everybody would go and they'd ride the same horse year after year after year. And one year I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something different. And so each day when I rode a different horse. And I talked to Gary and I was like, oh my God, like each one is so different. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but when you're married or you're in a relationship, even when you're young, you've only experienced that one connection, and you don't know what it's like to try other energies, taste other desserts.
Exactly.
So what a great possibility that you had, so that you could try out different energies
Yeah,
and see what worked for you, so that when you
yeah.
were ready to choose, a relationship, that you found somebody that was fun and
Yes,
pleasant.
and I mean, I must say that, I mean, me choosing a conscious relationship, uh, it actually happened for the first time in my life 5 years ago when I met Amanda. Before that, it was not really that, although I had tried different desserts, like you put it, and I knew the different energy, I was aware of it. And funny enough, I was still choosing relationships where my partner was judging the crap out of herself and out of me. So
Yeah.
it was still based on judgment. And what I'm so grateful about now with my relationship with Amanda is that, first of all, we do not judge each other. And there is still this playfulness. And every morning we wake up and we ask ourselves, okay, so who am I today? Who am I today? And really exploring this. And we did this teleco once called 10-second sex. And a lot
Mm.
of people thought it was about having sex in 10 seconds, which was actually the opposite. And it was more about every 10 seconds, ask the question of, is this still fun?
Yeah, no,
And
but I
if it's
like.
not fun, what do I want to change? What do I want to choose? Or I'm actually done for now, which is fine too.
Mm.
So yes, it can last 10 seconds if after 10 seconds you realize, oh, you know what, those 10 seconds were great, but now I'm done with it. And that's fine. you
Yeah.
know, and uh, and it's really this, and it really is this community. It really is this communication with your partner and being. I'm not saying in the same place, because hopefully you're not. Hopefully you're in two different places that are contributing to each other. But you're aware that both of you are actually changing every fraction of a second, not even every 10 seconds, but every fraction of a second. So of course, what was great 5 seconds ago, or 10 seconds ago, or 10 minutes ago might not be fun anymore. Or if it's still fun, we'll choose it again and see how you can amp it up even more. And it's really this the thing of being, for me, being adventurous in sex and wanting to try out different things is something that actually contributes a lot. And I'm talking about copulation now. And that's when the sexualness comes in as well. And sexualness, for those listening or watching that don't know what it is, it's really this, the energy that we find in nature, that we find in animals, that we find in us as kids. And it's this beautiful energy of nature and everything that actually is, with no judgment and total presence. That is such an invitation.
It is an amazing energy. And actually, I used to do a class, I should probably bring it back, called Sexualness and the Seven Fountains of Youth.
Oh,
It is
whatever you do, don't bring it back. Don't bring it back.
it is such an amazing energy, and to explore the seven fountains together, like you look at your partner and you look like you're 18 again.
Yeah, totally.
So
I mean, for me, that is
who would
one.
like that possibility?
I sign up for that one right away. Yes, please, more of that. And regarding, I mean, a lot of guys, and I think women are similar, but they don't have the same pressure as guys in terms of the result, the end result, the goal of copulating. And a lot of guys have this big issue about, how long it should last and what it should look like, and that you have to come in a certain way, and if you don't come, it's totally wrong, and all of those things. And I was there until I actually got inspired by Sting. I read an article by Sting, and he was talking about, he'd been doing tantra and he had discovered how to have sex without ejaculating, but actually having multiple orgasms.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. I mean, I've seen women, I see women doing that, but I've never heard of any other guy doing that. And so I started experimenting with that and exploring that, mainly on my own, really. And that was, when I say on my own, was actually having my barriers way down during sex, and being willing to fuck it up, excuse the pun, completely, and not having any point of view, but actually being present in every single second of it.
Yeah.
And I realized that, I could prolong it as however long I wanted.
Yeah.
And still have orgasm after orgasm after orgasm. And I will choose when and if to actually ejaculate.
Right.
And it changed my life. It really changed my life.
Yeah. It's amazing. Our bodies have this amazing capacity, but you can't get there from the judgment or the contraction. No. Yeah. You have to get there from the relaxation. So it does take a little bit longer, usually.
Yes, exactly.
And yet you can float in this euphoric cloud-like rim.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, oh yeah, it's awesome.
It is.
And it is teachable. And the funny thing is that I think that most people don't know that orgasm and ejaculation are two separate things that do not need to occur simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that most possibly, I don't think I'm exaggerating, that most probably 97, 98% of the male population in this world, they actually go lump the two things together.
Yep. Yeah.
So what else is possible? And like you say, it is teachable, it is learnable, and I mean, it's learnable. I mean, I didn't go to any courses or classes or whatever. No. Then later on, I read about it, but it was really being the question with my own body.
Yeah.
What's fun now? Do you want to ejaculate now? Well, no, I don't, because as a man, when you ejaculate, you use up a hell of a lot of energy, and you actually have to rest for a while. And you have to take a break. And whereas you can have an orgasm without that and carry on, and the pleasure just keeps increasing, and it's really mind blowing. So I would definitely recommend guys, listening to this to actually try it out. And the ladies listening to this, how about being the invitation to your men to actually be that and to explore that? And also telling them that they're not wrong if they ejaculate too early or too late or not at all. That is not the point. The point is, just like life, is the journey, it's the adventure.
Yeah.
In an adventure, we don't know where we're going. Maybe we might have an idea of where we might be heading, but if it's a real adventure, we're prepared to change that where we're heading every single second with what
So
is fun.
true. So true. Yeah. So I think another component of this is the energy and the presence of touch itself. Like
Yes.
even in cooking a meal, like you were saying, you were
Oh,
making
totally.
risotto, and like the energy that you put into that
Totally.
is the same energy. So using that with bodies, what does that create? And then noticing when you use that with food, or for me with jewelry, it creates a totally different product when you're
Absolutely.
done.
Absolutely. And I mean, funny you mentioned the risotto that I'm making, and a risotto, like anything else that you cook with love and passion and that yumminess, it really requires your presence, and it's your energetic presence. You have to really be one with the risotto and listen to it and watch it and see how it develops. And
Mhm.
it's a game. Even that it's a game together. You're playing together with the rice, with the wine, with the mushrooms, with all the components. And Amanda's seen me make risotto quite a few times, and she makes also great risotto. And normally I'm a bit of a snob with the food that I cook, so I would not trust anybody to take over what I've started. And Amanda said, well, I don't know how to finish this one. How do you want me to finish? And I said, you know how to finish it. And I showed her a few practical things about how to listen to the risotto and how to look at it.
Right.
And I know that, it's going to be magic. And it's the same. It's the same with sex and copulation. It's the same thing. You need to be present. And regarding touch and body and presence, I created this thing actually called body presence 2 years ago, and it's almost like a massage, but it's imagine a massage where there is no judgment whatsoever and total presence with the body that is receiving.
I had one
And
yesterday.
cool.
Found this one guy who's really
Cool.
present and yeah. And I'm like, wow. Thank you.
Exactly. So you did the body presence thing that I started. We removed the judgment that still persists in most massages that I've discovered, at least,
Yes.
where there's still the judgment of time and money. You still choose a session of 1 hour, 2 hours maximum most of the time, and you have a set price, a price depending on the time. And with body presence, we just charge the same amount regardless of whether it takes half an hour or 5 hours, as the longest session so far has been,
Wow.
to remove in that judgment. And I discovered with this, and it's an ongoing process, an ongoing thing. It's a living entity of its own, as you know, as any creation, and so it goes where it wants to go. But the thing that I discovered is that this, even for those of us that say that we're not judging our bodies and we're present with our bodies, there's still so much judgment related to body parts. And the funny thing is that our intimate parts, the intimate parts of our body, are the ones that we actually judge the most. And we make them so-called intimate so that people don't actually touch them or even mention them, because that's where we store all the shit in our lives that we don't even want to look at.
Mm,
Quite smart of us, I must say.
right. And, that's from training and parents and peers and
Yeah,
teachers.
exactly. And I mean, how many of us have not been caught by their parents or their friends or whatever masturbating and being made totally wrong for that and being made to feel ashamed of it? And that's exactly what we do. We put all the shame, guilt, regret, and everything, all the distractor implants, we just stuff them down there so that nobody, not even ourselves, can ever look at it again. When in fact, what bodies
So
love.
how do you start dissipating some of that judgment with your clients?
Well, by being present and being present with their body and really being in the question of if the client is actually being present with their body or whether they're actually being present with their head, their mind.
Mm.
And I'm not, I'm listening to the body, and I also have to be aware of their mind, two totally different things, because
Mm-hmm.
the mind, the body, and the being, and the being follows the body. It's only the mind that comes in and interrupts the whole communication thing. Otherwise, our being and our body are in total communion with each other. Look at us as kids before the judgment comes in. We're in complete unison with our bodies. And that's who we are as beings that have created these beautiful, yummy bodies that we have. And the only reason why we created our bodies is actually to be able to enjoy everything on this planet. Because without the body, we can still enjoy the planet, but in a different way as we enjoy the rest of the universe.
Right.
We only need our body. Our bodies are our rovers, our vehicles to explore and truly enjoy and indulge of this earth, of this planet, with the five senses, the five official senses, and all the other senses that we have. And
The
that's when,
mind. It's a dangerous place. What does
it's a
Gary say?
dangerous place, yeah.
When the mind is away, you, the being, get to play.
Yep, true story. Gary always gets it right on the nail.
So one of the things that I've discovered is running somebody's bars first before we get anywhere else gives you a lot of information because you get to see how they receive, how the energy moves, if there's an expansiveness between the two of you, and they're relaxed and the mind goes. So then playing after that, you have a much greater possibility of something.
Oh, totally. I mean, let's face it, bars is a great way to start pretty much anything.
So for all the guys out there, go and take a bars
class. Get your bars on, or take a bars class.
Actually, the ladies too, because ladies are just as much in their heads and in judgment. One thing that I noticed also is when you've done a lot of this work, you're being a different energy, and sometimes men are used to the judgment to create the excitement, the sexual energy, and so things can be very strange for them, and they can go into judgment like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? My body's so relaxed. The erection goes up and down, and throughout the space of it, they're sort of freaking out. But
they freak out,
you can reassure them, it's okay. It'll come back. Exactly. Let me show you.
Exactly.
Relaxation and pleasure are things that people don't necessarily put together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen to any piece of music. If it was just in a crescendo, it would be terrible. Any piece of music, no matter what genre, has its waves where it goes up and down, up and down. There is a crescendo, and then it goes down and back again. So, and that's what it is.
Yeah. And there's the wave of there's the waves of energy throughout the universe that you can be in sync with when you're playing with bodies. And then so you can surf that wave as well, which is really fun.
Totally.
And
the other thing is that, I mean, it's a thing to really be present and be in the question every single second of, is it fun? Great. Can I make it even more fun? Great. Or am I done with this? And that's great too. There's nothing wrong with that either. And having the guts to actually, when your body is done, and listen to the body, because copulating and having sex is actually for the body. It could be for the mind, but most of the time it's actually abusing the mind, and the mind is abusing the body. It's a mutual,
And it's not
abuse.
like for a 5-star rating.
No, exactly. You have no medals to win. Just pleasure to be had, full stop. And if you're done, you're done,
Yeah.
And that's it. And there's nothing
And then
wrong
10
with that
seconds
either.
later, you might get
You
another
might
wave.
want it again. Exactly.
And there's such freedom in that. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, fun. This has been an interesting conversation. Hey, there's one other thing I wanted to ask you, because I heard you put these two words together, elegant copulation. Is this term like what you're talking about, the 10 seconds of choosing?
Yes, absolutely. Because in elegance, there is first of all, the ease of it. Everything that is with ease is elegant. Everything that is not rushed has an element of elegance in it. And elegance has kindness into it. So yeah, I mean, elegant copulation, I just love it. And if you really get the energy of elegance and you put that in copulation, yeah, truly, what else is possible where it's not? It's no longer, thank God, I hope not, the head banging of one of the two against the bedboard. And where there is no performance anxiety, where there is no 30-second sex, literally sexy in 30 seconds, which is like, yeah, sure, I have nothing against quickies. That could be fun too. But there is something else available as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have more conversations in the future. And if anybody's interested in contacting you or your lovely wife, Amanda, I will put your links in the show notes.
Fantastic. That's great. And I do a million different things, so you'll have several links.
Fabulous. Awesome. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much for playing.
Thank you, Julie. That was lovely playing with you.